Hi everyone, welcome to channel Qtomation. In this session we will see about architecture of Playwright, and we will also compare the architecture of Playwright and Selenium. So let's start. So this is how high level architecture of Playwright automation tool is displayed. So there are mainly three key components in Playwright architecture. So Playwright is client-server based framework designed for end-to-end web testing. First component is client. Client, or we can say a test script which we write. So this is where you write the test script using Playwright's API. And there are different languages which are supported. For example, JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, Python, C Sharp, etc. So this is called as a client where we actually write the script. Client is mainly the brain of your test. Whatever test we write, it totally depends on client because it actually controls browser actions like clicking buttons, navigating pages, and validating results, etc. There is a client, and next key component is server. Next component is browser control layer, that is basically Playwright server. Server runs the browser automation protocol. Server runs the browser automation protocol, which is responsible for communication with web browser. So in client, we write the test script. These basically controls which are called the API, and this is a server model. So Playwright server is the component which is responsible for communicating with web browser. So there are multiple browsers which are supported by Playwright server. Browsers like Chromium, browsers like Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, etc. So via server, it will control the opening and closing of browsers, executing commands like navigating URLs or interacting with elements. That is controlled via Playwright server. And there is a client, there is a server. So how the communication between client and server happens? So that is the third component called as transport layer. So client is this one. This is Playwright server. Client is where we write the script, which can be written by any language like JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, Python, .NET, etc. And there is a Playwright server. But in between client and server, there has to be some connection. So what is the transport layer between client and server? So client and server communicate over a WebSocket or similar protocol. So basically in Playwright, client and server communicates via WebSocket connection. So whatever commands we have written in our test scripts are sent to browser through this transport layer. So in WebSocket layer, the client and server basically communicates. So first handshake and connection is established. After that, parallelly requests and responses are sent between client and Playwright server. Once the connection is established for all the commands unless it's disconnected by client or server end. So once WebSocket connection is made, after that requests and responses are sent between client and server. That is Playwright protocol, or we can say WebSocket connection, which acts as transport layer between Playwright server and client. Playwright server basically controls the browsers, and client is the script which we have written, and it calls the API on Playwright server machine. So that is the high level architecture, and client and Playwright server communicate with each other via transport layer, which is WebSocket layer. So WebSocket protocol is used. So if you want to see how actually it works step by step. So first step is test script execution. So let me just go through the notes as well. So Playwright is client-server based framework designed for end-to-end web testing. Key components of Playwright architecture. First is client. Client means test script which we write in programming languages. This is where you write the test script using Playwright's API. Languages are multiple which are supported like JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Java, C#, etc. The client is the brain of your test, controlling the browser actions like clicking buttons, navigating pages, validating results, etc. Second component is server. That is a browser control layer. So if you see, this is the client and this is the server layer. In server, it basically runs the browser automation protocol, which is responsible for communicating with web browsers. And different browsers which are supported like Chromium, Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, etc. And third one is between client and server there is WebSocket protocol. Between client and server they communicate in the transport layer, which is WebSocket protocol. Commands from your client test script are sent to the browser through this layer. And if you want to see on high level how actually it works, first step is test script execution. You write the test cases using Playwright's API. Basically it's commands. We can write the script in multiple languages like page.click, page.fill, etc. The script runs on the client side in your chosen language. Second step is communication with the browser. The client will send the commands like clicking or navigating to browser through the transport layer. And then the browser actions will happen. The server will interpret these commands and uses the browser's native automation protocol, that is DevTools protocol from Chromium, to perform those actions. And then comes the result handling. The browser sends the result of the actions like page load completion or element interaction back to the client. So this is high level, a step-by-step things which happens in Playwright. And there are multiple languages which are supported, and mainly on client side written in JavaScript. So languages and protocols used, it is written in JavaScript, that is Node.js based library, but bindings are available for Python, Java and C#. Transport layer uses the WebSocket or HTTP for communication, and server-side communication works directly with browser-specific protocols like Chromium DevTools protocol for Chromium, custom protocols for Firefox and WebKit. So that is the high-level architecture of Playwright. The main differentiator from Selenium for WebDriver architecture with Playwright is the protocol on which it runs. So in client and between server and client, there is WebSocket protocol. Now we will just compare with Selenium for WebDriver architecture. So if you see high level architecture of Selenium for WebDriver, it includes four major components. Selenium client libraries, or we can say language bindings. These are client libraries provided by Selenium for several programming languages like Java, Python, etc. So these are basically client, those are basically libraries and bindings. And there is a browser driver. So browser drivers are standalone executable files .exe files like chromedriver.exe, geekodriver.exe, msedgedriver.exe, which helps with the browser interaction. So if you have worked with Selenium, we know that we have to download these browser drivers.executable files in our project. And they basically controls the browsers. So these are called as a browser drivers. And Selenium client libraries and browser drivers communicates between W3C protocol. So there is a W3C protocol. It is a worldwide web consortium protocol that sets a global standard that all browsers follow. and browser drivers also follow the same. So to make a standard communication between the client and server, we use W3C protocol. Previously it was JSON protocol. Before Selenium 4, in previous version it was JSON protocol, but from Selenium 4 onwards, it replaced the JSON protocol with W3C protocol. Protocol means it's just a set of rules by which client and server communicates. And these browsers are controlled by browser drivers. High level code is written in any programming language is converted into HTTP request format. So in Selenium 4, high level code written in any programming language is converted into HTTP request format. This request is sent to browser drivers, which then executes the request command on actual browsers and sends back the responses that are processed and returned to the test script. So whatever validation we have written in the test script, those will be validated. So this is high level architecture of Selenium WebDriver. The main difference is Playwright. If you see the Playwright architecture, Playwright uses a WebSocket protocol to interact with client and server. In between client and server in Playwright there is WebSocket protocol. And in WebSocket protocol, we can send back-to-back request without terminating the connection, which helps the Playwright to perform test execution at much faster pace than other automation tools. Because in WebSocket, there is a parallel communication. We can send back-to-back request. Whereas in Selenium architecture, we have to send HTTP request. So once request is sent, it waits for the response in HTTP protocol. But whereas in WebSocket protocol, once the connection is established between client and server, we can send back-to-back request. So that is the main difference where Playwright performs faster test execution compared to Selenium WebDriver. So this is about the architecture of Playwright. So we have seen the overall architecture of Playwright. In next session, we will see about installation of Playwright and executing the test cases in Playwright. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you like this video. Kindly subscribe to my channel. Also share this channel to your friends